I got ahead of myself for a moment because it was so exciting watching the San Francisco-New Orleans game today. Now, last year, these two teams had the best record of the NFL, 13-2 the Niners, 12-3 the Saints, as they went nip and tuck down to the wire for the NFC West. New Orleans won at San Francisco by 2. San Francisco won at the Saints last year by 2. So they were looking at this game as soon as the schedule came out. Biggest regular season game ever for the New Orleans Saints. And it was played into the Dome in New Orleans. Bill Walsh has always had his opening 25 plays scripted, and the first drive was picture perfect. Roger Craig jumped a little early, but Roger landed on his feet. Opening drive, 7-0 San Francisco. But the Saints on their opening drive marched right back. Bobby Hebert, third and goal, floats one over number 49, Jeff Fuller, into the hands of Eric Martin, who makes a pretty cradle, and he almost goes to slow motion. We're tied at 7. Next play from the Niners at scrimmage, swarming D of the Saints, Tom.
Well, swarming D and stripping the football is something that they build their playoff hopes on. They did a good job of it right there.
And New Orleans capitalized on the turnover. Hebert looks into the end zone, and he spots Robert Clark all alone. 21-yard touchdown, 14-7 Saints. Niners had difficulties in the second quarter. Joe Montana would like to have this pass back. Overthrown, picked off by Gabe Waymer. But look at number 16, Montana, as Waymer makes a nice return. Watch Joe fight his way through, make the tackle on Waymer. But the Saints would lead Montana, the Niners, 17-10 at the half. But in the third quarter, Joe picked himself up off the ground. And on the first drive, the third quarter, first and goal from the 8, the surgeon at work. Montana, the tight end John Frank, touchdown. We're tied at 17. Jim Mora. Could the 49ers have Mora in this quarter? He would soon watch it. Frank, there are his stats on the day. Next possession, second possession in the third quarter. Montana to the veteran, unheralded Mike Wilson, number 85, 17-yard touchdown, 24-17. Third possession of the third quarter. Montana, Frank, 17-yard post pattern, hits 31-17. Joe didn't have the great numbers, but 3 touchdowns within 12 minutes got the Niners up by 14. Joe would not finish the contest, though. You saw he had an elbow problem, pumped up in the third quarter. Steve Young came on to relieve. And in the fourth quarter, the Saints wouldn't quit. Bobby Hebert, watch this throw against the grain to Lonzel Hill. Makes the pretty catch over Don Griffin, and even Darth Vader is elated. 31-24, the Saints are within 7. Hebert on the day threw for 4 TDs, 245 yards. Late in the fourth quarter, Hebert's pass is deflected. And watch Michael Carter on the 6-yard line.
A little bit questionable whether his momentum carried him in or not, but they made up for it later on.
Well, he's a big guy, Tommy. It takes him 6 yards and stop. Well, no call on a safety there, but intentional grounding on the ensuing play. The make-good safety cuts the Niners' lead to 5 points. And then as the Saints poised to take a shot at the lead on 2nd and 13, guess who? Michael Carter hits Hebert. Charles Haley falls on the ball. Cofer tacks on a field goal, so the Saints' late touchdown brings them to within 1. But the Niners recover the onside kick with about 20 seconds to go, and the best game of the day ended with the 49ers beating the New Orleans Saints by a count of 34-33. And I think what we learned today was that all those who thought there was a quarterback controversy, who said Montana had a bad half against Minnesota, he had a bad half against New Orleans, geez, he should be out of there. Wrong. Joe Montana is a surgeon and one of the best of all time. And Hebert had a nice day, Tommy, but you could see the difference, couldn't you?
Well, I think Hebert had a great day. He threw 4 touchdowns. He's not a Joe Montana. I think the one thing that I see when I watch Hebert is that good first reader, but when he has to take that second look or that third look, he has a little bit of a problem finding receivers. He's going to be a much better receiver, a quarterback, as he learns to read those second and third guys.
But both teams showing that it was, I don't want to say it's a playoff game, but it looked at that stature, didn't it?
Certainly the tempo was very much like the playoffs.
Michael Carter involved in a lot of plays today, Pete, and the Niners are talking about impact players on defense. They have one in Ronnie Lott. They liked his play today, didn't they?
Well, it's hard to talk about defense in a game with 6 or 7 points scored. But the fact is that Carter looked like really the Michael Carter of the old 49ers Super Bowl team, the last time they went to the Super Bowl. And if he can have this kind of physical game, the 49ers' problems in the playoffs the last few years have been largely they've been overwhelmed by more physical teams. And if they can get that kind of pure driving strength back in the middle from Carter, it could make a big difference.
Carter was so imposing that the referees gave him the 6 yards to go into the end zone. They didn't want to argue that it might have been a safety on his INT.
I don't want to hear any more about make good calls. Are you implying these zebras have to make up for their bad calls?
It was a make-up statement, of course. It was only fumbling. It's only week 1 at this point.